$19 for this book to teach you how to become a millionaire. Sounds worth it to me. So if you didn't know, there is this small YouTube channel called The Money Guy Show. Just kidding, they're huge. But the guy who founded it, Brian Preston, wrote this book, Millionaire Mission, to walk through their 9 essential steps to reaching financial independence. It's also known as the financial order of operations, and that's what I'm not talking about in this video. As I was reading that book last week, I pulled 8 underlying principles that are essential if you want to become a millionaire. Principle number 1, in the beginning, savings rate matters more over rate of return. Finance bros love to argue about the rate of return of their investments, okay? If you watched one of my videos a couple weeks back, I talked about my Roth IRA and what I invested into. And of course, the finance bros and nerds were arguing in the comments about the rate of return or the expense ratio of different index funds, mutual funds, VOO versus VT-SAX. And honestly, I found those arguments kind of funny, but also harmful. For a beginner who has never invested before, when they see these arguments and debates about which index fund or which ETF is better, it makes them feel intimidated and hesitant to put their money into the market. But I'll tell you what, debating between VOO or VTI as the better investment is similar to 2 rich guys arguing whether or not the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton is the better hotel. They might notice differences because they're rich and they've been to these hotels multiple times. But for someone that's grown up only going to Motel 6s or has never been to a hotel, these are 2 amazing choices for them either way. And the same thing goes for beginner investors. Your main focus should be increasing your saving and investing rates. AKA just put your money into the market, into some sort of diversified ETF or fund, which is way better than getting caught up in analysis paralysis, trying to figure out which specific fund you should invest into, because it all really comes down to personal preference. And I promise later in the video, we'll talk about one part of the book that describes how millionaires truly invest. Also, you will notice as we go through this flow chart, each of these principles are going to be more important as you build more wealth. So make sure to stick around because the last principles are the real game changers. Principle number 2, track your finances like you track your fitness. If you've ever had a fitness goal, for example, trying to lose weight, it is really hard to visually see in a mirror the physical changes your body's making. But what would be more tangible and would help you actually see progress at the beginning is by tracking certain measurements. For example, your weight, your body measurements, or your calorie intake. These are crystal clear numbers that you can track, and when you start seeing progress, seeing these numbers change will fire you up. And honestly, the same thing goes with our money. You might not see your financial progress if you're only seeing your credit card statement or your account balance once every 6 months, but if you actually put in a little effort to start tracking your progress, for example, creating a net worth statement or creating a budget each month, you'll finally be able to tangibly see the progress you're making in your finances. And once again, just like fitness, that progress is going to fire you up to keep going. Heck, even for my wife and I, we started tracking our net worth by using Monarch Money. It was super easy. We synced up all of our accounts to our personal finance dashboard. And every time we log in, we can easily see our net worth increasing with each month. And I'll be honest here, all right? Without getting obsessed with the numbers, seeing that progress fires us up and makes us more motivated to save and invest more of our income. But unfortunately, a lot of us like to bury our head in the sand and just hope and pray that we have enough money by the time we retire. But this book says otherwise, all right? Make sure to track your financial progress the same way you would track your fitness progress. Principle number 3, generosity should be practiced at all steps of the process. Now, although these principles are going to become more important as you have more wealth, this principle stays the same throughout. Whether you just graduated college earning $40,000 a year or you're a small business owner earning 7 figures a year, you should always be focused on some sort of generosity and some type of service. And before you get your knickers in a twist, generosity and service can come in way more forms than just money. You can be generous by giving your time, heck, maybe going to a food bank and donating some time on a Saturday to helping people pack up meals, you know? Or you can give your talents by maybe tutoring people or teaching people the knowledge about finances that you're learning from your own journey. And the reason why this is so important, especially at the beginning of your wealth journey, is that the characteristics and habits you build now are only going to escalate as you have more wealth. AKA, if you are already a selfish person now, then as you become more wealthy, you're just gonna become even more selfish. But if you're a service-oriented, generous person now, as you build wealth, wealth, you'll only become more service-oriented and more generous. And let's keep it real here. What is really the purpose of building wealth and having financial independence if we're only going to think about ourselves? Probably the biggest reason why my wife and I are working so hard, investing and saving so much of our money and trying to become financially independent is so that eventually we no longer have to worry about money, and instead we can worry about other things. Things that can bring a positive impact into this world and things that can help our loved ones around us. And because I'm just curious and we are a community here at The Frugal Rich, let us know in the comments, what is your why behind building wealth? Is there a greater mission and purpose that you want to focus on instead of money? Or is there a particular person or family member that you want to help in the long run? Again, this is just out of curiosity, so if you're comfortable with it, let us know in the comments. Principle number 4. Forced scarcity will limit bad habits. I will read an excerpt from Mr. Brian Preston. Here he is right on the back of the book. But this is what he says about forced scarcity and what it is. Forced scarcity is the process of creating and expanding your automatic saving and investment plans as your income increases. This simple but very effective tool allows you to cut lifestyle creep off at the knees. You are increasing the good and healthy wealth building habits by consistently adding to investments as your income increases, while at the same time limiting your access to free cash flow that can be spent on bad and unnecessary wants and behaviors. And I'll tell you what, that is the reality of what happens as your income increases, or as you get that new job that has an increase in income. For me, when I started earning a larger income, I would just see a larger amount of money in my checking account, which made me feel rich and made me feel like I had more room to spend on frivolous things and just not include them in my budget. Unfortunately, that has led to some of the most expensive months of my life until I started implementing this forced scarcity. As our household income increased, we went into our high yield savings account and we adjusted the amount we were putting into it each month. We also logged into Fidelity to get into our taxable brokerage account and increase the contribution each month as well. So now as we were making more money, we didn't just give our permission to spend money on things we didn't need, but we created this false limit to how much we can spend by bumping up our savings and investing, which will only accelerate our progress towards financial independence. And just a fun little side note here, you know I keep it real with you, and as my wife and I started bumping up our investing rate, she felt a little bit like she was losing part of her income because we were now investing it more. And we just had to have a conversation about how that is not us losing money, it's actually us putting our money to work, because it was still in our accounts, it still belonged to us, but now it was doing something better than either being spent or sitting in a boring old savings account. Principle number 5, investing is like fishing. I really enjoyed this analogy from the book. I never heard of investing in this way, but this is the mindset that millionaires have when they invest. See, I piqued your curiosity earlier in the video, and here we are closing that loop. When it comes to fishing, it is way more fun to talk about your recreational fishing adventures. It's also a lot more interesting to post about on social media. I know you've seen it. I know ladies out there, you've seen that dude with his Tinder profile holding a big fish. Or maybe on Facebook, you see your coworker went on a fishing trip to Alaska and they're holding a huge salmon. And the only story you're gonna hear about recreational fishing is about how they reeled in that huge fish and how it's now a trophy on their Facebook wall. But I'll tell you what, no one posts about the fails, which was probably 99% of their time recreational fishing. So why am I talking about this? Well, the same thing goes with recreational investing. People love to talk about that one stock or that one cryptocurrency that they got into early when there was some big inflationary period. But they will never talk about the fails. That's not cool to discuss, but unfortunately, that's probably 99% of people's recreational investing. It's just fails and losses. Compare that now to fishing if it wasn't just for fun. Maybe you're fishing for your family and you're actually fishing to survive. You're not just gonna go out there to the lake or the ocean with one fishing pole if you're trying to feed your whole family. If you wanna create a sustainable food supply that can feed your family for months or even years, then you're gonna go out there with a whole net. And I think you know where I'm going with this analogy. If you're going to be investing for your family's future, for survival and not just for fun, you're not going to want to go fishing for just one or two kinds of stocks. You're going to want to cast out a wide net to capture hundreds, if not thousands, of different companies' stock, bonds, or other investment vehicles. And that is why someone who wants to become a millionaire while also keeping their sanity and peace of mind will typically invest into broader, diversified mutual funds and index funds, or those things called ETFs. For me personally, in our taxable brokerage account, we have VOO, which is invested into the top 500 stocks in the country. That is a wide net already. And then we cast another wide net into VXUS, which is the Vanguard Total International Fund. So we're also casting a net to all these foreign fish, if you know what I mean. But something I've also learned about millionaires is that they're not trying to do this all by themselves. But fair warning, there's something I want to share with you at the end of this video that can protect you from making bad investing decisions with the wrong people. Principle number 6, bedazzle your basic life. Just because you're in debt, in the trenches, maybe you're still building your emergency fund, doesn't mean that you're gonna have to live a life of misery and deprivation. Because let me tell you what, even when I was in college or when my wife and I were in our humble beginnings, we still managed to have fun, we still managed to have quality time with the people we love, and it all just took a little bit more creativity. Even last night, right? My wife and I were bored and it's a time change happened and it's so dark now in our evenings. We just whipped out this true crime puzzle, like one of those things where they give you all the files, pictures, evidence, and you try to figure out like who the murderer is. Like that was pretty fun for the both of us. And buying that whole true crime packet was pretty dang cheap. And even within the book itself, Brian Preston talks about how he and his wife took a 10-day trip to Italy while they were still building their wealth. So this was not a luxury trip, right? They were trying to find the cheapest hotels, the cheapest activities. They were walking all over the place trying to save on public transportation. And even though at the time it felt maybe a little stressful, or maybe it felt like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel, they've now been able to look back and see these memories sweeten over time. So yeah, I think this principle is all about embracing your journey at whatever point you're in. You can sweeten up those humble beginnings by, I don't know, doing a potluck with your friends, going on a trip on a budget, or by picking up inexpensive hobbies that will make your weekday evenings more interesting. Principle number 7. This is coming back to the warning I mentioned earlier. Everyone who works in finance has a conflict of interest. And I love how real Brian kept it in this book, because he even said, me as a financial advisor, I have a conflict of interest. The more money and assets that I manage, the more money that I make. But honestly, that is not even that bad. At other financial advising firms, for example, someone like, I don't know, Morgan Stanley or Northwestern Mutual, those advisors are incentivized to offer certain funds because they get higher commissions off of that, even though those funds might not be the best fit or the cheapest option for you. So of course, hopefully that is common sense for you to keep in mind as you're working with certain people to help you make certain huge financial decisions. There are insurance agents with conflicts of interest. Heck, we got credit card companies with their own conflicts of interest, which are even worse for you. And then we even have real estate agents that of course have their own conflicts of interest as they're helping you navigate your biggest decision, which is buying a home. So that's why for me, as my wife and I's financial situation is getting more complex, we're looking to buy a house soon. We're not just gonna go with the quick and easy option or the first option or the relative that just got the real estate license because we want to support them. We are gonna focus on doing our due diligence by interviewing the advisor we wanna work with in the future, or by interviewing the real estate agent we wanna work with in the future, and figuring out, are they actually looking out for our best interests, or are they just a great salesman? And let us know in the comments as well. Has there been a sketchy experience you've had with a financial advisor or a real estate agent or anyone that works in finance? We love to know about what we should be looking out for. Principle number 8. Cash, the unlikely wealth builder. Now, something Brian points out in this book is to not disregard the power of having cash in the bank, ready to use at any time. When you have liquid cash, you are able to hop on opportunities when they come. For example, within this book, he outlines a story of an opportunity he was able to hop on because he had cash at the ready. It was during COVID, and at the time, his office was within a larger building of the Franklin downtown area. But something happened within that time period where that building where his office existed fully became on sale. And because Brian, the man, the myth, the legend, was always saving up cash throughout the last few decades, this man was able to hop on the opportunity of purchasing this entire building where his office existed, and I think even more buildings in the downtown area. So the lesson here is that because he had cash, he was able to jump on this opportunity, which ultimately led him to generational wealth. Like, this was an asset that was going to support his family for the years and generations to come. And personally, I'm so glad that I read that portion of the book, because my wife and I have been saving for a down payment on a home. It's all going into a high yield savings account. And honestly, I felt kind of silly. Like, why are we dumping so much cash into this account when we could be, investing all of this money for our retirement? But just like Brian here, because we now have cash on hand, we're able to hop on an opportunity to buy a home, maybe at a great deal when the time comes, and we won't be stressed out about trying to scrape together the funds to hop on an opportunity or missing the opportunity altogether. And by the way, since we are talking about investing, I discussed exactly what we invested into within our Roth IRA in this video up here. If you give it a click, I'll dive into that deeper. And thank you again, Brian, for writing this book. It's really great. See you guys in this video. Peace.